Westborough High School has always taken pride in our sense of community. But one struggle we have always faced is the disconnect between administration and students. Students often don't know what the role of admin actually is. We took an inside look at the role admin plays within our school. In other words, you could say we are bridging the gap between administration and students. We made our way back to the main office to visit Mrs. Mercadante, one of Westborough High School's vice principals. We checked in to see how she was adjusting to WHS in the Westborough community.
I love working at Westborough High School. This is my first year in Westborough, and it's definitely been a learning curve to learn the community and the people here. But I would say that everyone is so welcoming, and it's a great kind of smaller community where you can really build strong relationships, and I've enjoyed my first year here. I think I kind of said it in the last question that it's the strong commitment to building relationships. Westborough has a nice size to it where you feel like you can really get to know people pretty quickly. And while it is a relatively large school, we have 1,200 students here. I do think that I have been able to really get to know students, get to know staff and teachers, get to know parents, and it's all good. So I think it's been great. It's a great advantage of Westborough. It's something that I think the community really prides itself on, is that strong culture of building relationships. Well, prior to coming to Westborough, I was a teacher. So moving into administration is a major leap and a total change in my career. And so it's the biggest challenge has been just learning the job and learning the role of an administrator. It's something that I've wanted for a long time, and I, went to school for, but then to actually be in the role every day is a learning curve. I learn something new every single day. I will say as a caveat, there is no typical day for an administrator. Every day is, kind of bringing in something new. But most days I try to greet students at the buses every morning or at parent drop-off. And then I usually come in the building and look through my schedule of what I'm going to do for that day. Either it's conferencing with students, teachers, staff members, to work through any student conflicts, student achievements that we need to talk about, making sure that we find a way to support all of our students. So my day is typically filled with meetings and conferences with various support staff. And also I spend time with Mr. Callahan and Mrs. Barrett all the time. I'm boomeranging back and forth to their offices, and they're coming to mine, so we can conference on things. But I would say I'm up and moving as much as possible throughout the day, and really kind of keeping a focus on students and staff and making sure that I'm doing my best to support them and getting through their day and their year.
In the front office, Mrs. Orlando. Let's hear what she has to say.
I get here at 7. I go through my emails. Staff and students start coming in, and I do the announcement in the morning. And any bulletin items for clubs, any announcements like that from teachers, and then I start taking students who are a little late for class. Yeah. And we start with the tardies and the attendance, and it goes on from there. Mm-hmm. Taking their snoozers on their phones a little earlier, doing a backup snooze, or maybe investing in an old-fashioned alarm clock. Yeah. Because I hear a lot about it, the snoozing. Mm-hmm. And if you have a hard time to park, it's always better to get here earlier to get a parking spot.
Right.
A little motivated, then you guys can relax when you come into school. Take a few minutes before your day starts. It was at first, but it's not that bad, and I think having this in place is a good thing. Some friends will still be late, And they just know that every 3 tardies, they'll have a lunch detention. And that's just the way it is. We do try to, Mrs. McDermott and I try to make it a little fun. If they're coming in first thing, Mrs. McDermott's there till about 8:30, 25 past 8. So, it's like, be our guest at lunch. We'll reserve a table for you. But, there's no phones. It's a place that, trying to keep students from being tardy. It's better for them if they could be on time. I just like seeing students coming in. I hope that they're happy. Everybody has their moments throughout the day. My goal is just to keep trying to make sure everybody's getting where they're supposed to be going, and if I can't find them, relocate them and help them out and get students where they're supposed to be.
Next, we headed down to the D Wing to talk to Mr. Martin about his role as Fine Arts Director.
Well, I usually get here before the buses, and I make sure that everything's ready for the start of the day. And then throughout the day, when I'm not managing senior boys and their misbehavior, I make sure to get to the other buildings around town because I'm responsible for all of the buildings. Middle school, Mill Pond, elementary schools, the early childhood center. So I make sure that I visit those buildings as much as possible and get some evaluations done and attend some meetings before heading home to come back for performances. We've done such a great job of recovering post-COVID and getting our numbers back up and really making sure that we have lots of participation and that the quality of the program is maintained. So now that we're back to where we were, I'd like to see us continue to grow in numbers and diversity of repertoire and just having children, as many children as possible, enjoy our program across the district. Well, at WHS specifically, I would have to say that it is being able to spend 4 years with everybody. So like we see them enter, and I've known them since elementary school and middle school. So it's really interesting to watch kids come in as freshmen and see their journey as they leave as seniors, and really having those close personal relationships with kids over the years is really rewarding. It just makes it really exciting to kind of watch them grow as we work together. One thing that's definitely been a challenge is time management, is making sure that I can get to every building and get to every concert and, meet with students and meet with administrators and meet with other teachers, and kind of balancing the hours in a day to not get burnt out, to make sure that I can be everywhere I need to be at all times.
We concluded our series of interviews with none other than Mr. Callahan. Here's an inside peek on what it's like to be principal of WHS.
Good question. Most difficult part. I think it is keeping track of all of sort of the roles and responsibilities and tasks associated with each day. So, there's big project planning, there's visioning, and then there's, the execution part of it. Because there's, 130 staff members and 1,200 students, and keeping track of all of those details associated with those projects to keep us moving forward, to keep us safe, to keep us, doing as good a job as we can. Yeah. So that's the most difficult part of the job, is keeping track of all those tasks. Well, it's been a really smooth year compared to the last 3 for sure. Mm-hmm. So I see nothing really but highlights, even though some of those things might have been a little complicated. I think the most challenging aspect of this year, which, going in, I anticipated, it was trying to restore some of the boundaries with staff and students around expectations for learning, specifically the technology use that gets in the way of learning in the classroom, AirPods, use of phones, those types of things. I also think trying to address some of the wandering in the hallways. Certainly when it's intentional and purposeful, that's fine. But when it's not, when it's aimless and maybe leading to some misbehavior, that's something that we try to work hard on. And we're somewhat successful, but maybe not as successful as we'd like to be. I think another thing too is trying to address different things happening in the bathroom, and making sure that we can communicate clear expectations, hold people accountable as needed, but without being too punitive. Trying to balance that, because oftentimes, 10 people in a bathroom, they're like, oh, we're just hanging out. Well, 10 people in a bathroom hanging out with phones out that's really not okay. I mean, having phones out in a bathroom for obvious reasons is something that, shouldn't be happening. So trying to educate people on that, and try to provide a little bit more order to that whole function of, the school day. So those, I think, were the hardest things this year. All of those things, to be perfectly honest with you, keeping track of the tasks, trying to interact with staff, interact with students as much as possible. That absolutely is my favorite. We just got somebody knocked on the door just now to come in and check in with me. Prior to your arrival, I had nothing on my schedule, but 3 people were waiting for me. I love that. I love when I can get out of my office to go see them too, or see them in, the light that makes them shine, whether it be classroom or performances or athletics or things like that. That is by far, the people is my favorite part of the job. And I don't get enough of it, because of different meetings to do that big planning and things like that I just referenced. Mm-hmm. But yeah, that's definitely by far my favorite part.
Yeah.
I'm awake and up and out of my bed at 4:30 in the morning. First cup of coffee is soon after that. I've got it programmed, ready to go. And then I check on email, because I try to shut it down at some point in time, and I use the morning to really try to focus on getting back to as many people as I can, and to help set the course for the day and check my post-it notes that I said. And then I'm usually here between 6 and 6:30. I try to finish up anything that I was working on, and then I get a workout down in the locker room, in the fitness room, and then I'm in my office or outside at the buses by 7:30, 7:45, to greet people off the buses and parent drop-off. I love that part of it. It's a welcoming greeting and just being out ahead of, the building rather than waiting and reacting. I try to be proactive in that way. And then I come in and whatever's on my schedule. I've got a schedule that, looks a little bit like this, that, has a lot of meetings on it and a lot of check-ins and a lot of follow-ups. And then I use my post-it notes to add to that if need be. But yeah, it's a lot of meetings. A lot of meetings with students that have questions, with families that have questions, with staff that have questions or need some direction. And that stays pretty busy. And again, I try to, in between all that, get out and about as much as I can. It is somewhat limited, but it's been better since I've had my office here on the 2nd floor. And then, take a breath probably somewhere around 1:30, this third lunch. And then finish up anything before the end of the day that comes up. Follow up with people of things that happened at the beginning of the day before they leave. And I'm usually heading out of here around 5 o'clock. Or if there's something going on, I get out a little early, go home, check in, get dinner started, and I come back for a performance or, something like that. Yeah, that's pretty much a typical day. Anywhere from, 20 activities that are scheduled, and from the time I get here, 8 to 5, so 9-10 hours. Yeah, it's great. I think a personal goal of mine relative to the school is continue to become a better communicator. I think I could definitely grow in that area. I think for our school, I want to continue to build on the progress we've made around important social inclusion pieces. whether it be around making sure our environment is welcoming and inclusive to all types of different people and diverse groups, making sure that our actions in that realm match our values, and I also feel as though a professional goal for ours, in addition to that, is making sure that we're taking the time to share the good work that people are doing. So I think that students do incredible work, and they're quick to share their results on Instagram or Snapchat or somewhere with their family and friends. I think teachers are quick to share highlights with students or their classes and maybe one other colleague. But I don't know how much our community really knows all of that. The different parts of the community that are invested in that area know, but I don't know how much they really know, about the ongoings of our school. I want to use some goal around sharing and publicizing more of what we do as a means of reducing and minimizing the pessimism that goes on in our world. It's good to be critical and critique constructively, but when to label something negatively or really focus on that's not good enough, I don't know how healthy that is for people. They seem to get into their trench and be like defensive about it, and I think if we share and contribute in a very positive way the things we're doing well, the things that we need to do better, I think that's going to help our community as a whole. Rather than the mystery of what is happening with that. I never hear, or, and then when somebody asks, it's like 10 things. Oh, we've done this, and this. It's like composting, for example. Like we tried at the beginning of the year to do some composting. We have regrouped because it wasn't working. The composting was getting, was becoming ineffective because trash was being thrown away. So we regrouped and we're composting in the kitchen, and we need to come up with another way of educating students and having more people kind of help students learn how to properly compost. But what that isn't though is the high school doesn't care about composting anymore.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's like, but who would know unless they've asked what our goal around composting is? You did something in September, October, but where is it now? Well, there's an answer to that, but we haven't been effective at giving that information.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I think just sharing a little bit more, I think would have things be a little bit more positive and constructive toward meeting our goals.
Yeah.
That's the long answer.